Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, we've got a lot of really great stuff to cover today, so let's dive right in. We're taking a masterclass on exactly how to conquer the elementary grade drawing examination. So whether you're a budding art student getting geared up for the big test, or maybe an educator looking for ways to really refine your curriculum delivery, we're going to break down the exact requirements, the essential tools, and the specific techniques you need to absolutely nail this. And just so you know, we're drawing all of this directly from the beautifully detailed 2015 Restructured Curriculum Handbook by Jay Salian.
But before we even start talking about the rigorous technical requirements, I want to point out that the handbook actually sets a really profound tone right out of the gate with this simple, timeless truth: every child is an artist. I just think that's a fantastic way to start, right? Because this exam, it isn't just about harsh grading and drawing perfectly rigid lines. It's actually about giving students a highly structured platform to let their innate creativity completely shine. So keep that philosophy in the back of your mind as we navigate all the rules and regulations.
All right, so here is our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about unleashing the inner artist. Second, we'll break down the essential art toolkit. Third, we're mastering object drawing. Fourth, crafting memory drawings. And finally, we'll wrap up with the golden rules for success.
Okay, jumping into part one. Unleashing the inner artist.
So, exam day. It can sound super intimidating, but it really helps to reframe this intense day not as some stressful gauntlet, but as a structured opportunity to show off what you can do. The whole timeline is split into two distinct papers back-to-back. You've got the morning block from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., which is entirely dedicated to object drawing. That's where they test your ability to strictly observe what is sitting right in front of you. Then you get a much-needed break. And the afternoon session, which runs from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., shifts gears entirely to memory drawing. This tests your imaginative capabilities. So it's basically two completely different creative muscles being flexed on the exact same day.
Moving right along to part two, the essential art toolkit.
Look, you literally cannot build a masterpiece, or pass a strictly timed exam for that matter, without having exactly the right materials prepped and ready to go. The syllabus actually dictates a mandatory arsenal of contrasting media for this. You've got your 24-shade watercolor cakes, which are going to provide those gorgeous transparent or opaque base layers. And then, to go with that, the highly pigmented 50-shade artist oil pastels. The handbook actively encourages using these media either on their own or, even better, combining them. Layering oil pastels right over dried watercolors is an absolute game changer. It's a fantastic way to rapidly capture light, texture, and really deep shadows when you're racing against a ticking clock.
And the level of precision expected here? It's intense. We're not just talking about bringing any old brush you found at the bottom of a drawer. The syllabus specifically suggests professional tools like the Series 66 round and Series 67 flat fine golden Taklon hairbrushes. These very specific synthetic brushes give you that seamless, highly controlled color application that you absolutely need if you're going to accurately replicate still life objects.
All right, part three, mastering object drawing.
So this morning paper is all about strict, unflinching observation. The examiner is going to set up man-made and natural objects right in front of you, and your job is to skillfully replicate their forms and lighting exactly as they appear from where you're sitting. Now, to help you avoid totally panicking and to ensure high marks, the handbook actually lays out a fail-proof 5-step methodology. First, you start with a freehand 1.5 centimeter border. Second, you compose the shapes so they fit harmoniously on the page. Third, you refine the detailed drawing. Fourth, apply your base watercolor layer. And finally, step 5, bring the whole thing to life with oil pastels for your shadows. Let's actually walk through how this builds visually. Let's look at step 3 in action, the detailed drawing phase. Imagine you're tasked with drawing a bucket, a jar, and a cabbage. The key here is capturing those characteristic forms accurately and rapidly. You have to nail the relative proportions, right? The bucket has to be appropriately larger than the jar, and want to make sure the organic, kind of messy curves of the cabbage contrast nicely with the very rigid, perfect lines of the man-made objects. But wait, actually, let's hit pause and rewind slightly to look at the hidden mechanics of step 2. Before you even get to the detailed drawing, you use composition boundary boxes. This is exactly how a student should be conceptualizing space on their paper. Before you commit to any dark pencil lines, you mentally, or very lightly, block out these geometric boundaries. That ensures your entire group of objects sits harmoniously within the rectangle of your paper, rather than, just floating awkwardly in a bottom corner. Okay, moving to step 4, the watercolor application. This layer establishes your absolute foundation. It might look a little flat at first, but it locks in the local color of all your objects. Think of the yellow of a jar lid, the vibrant blue of a plastic bucket,
the light green of a cabbage. And this is crucial. You have to let this layer dry completely before you even think about starting your detail work.
And then, boom. Here is the incredibly satisfying final transformation in step 5. This is where those oil pastels get layered directly over that dried watercolor base. By doing this, you're able to add really striking midtones, deep core shadows to give the objects volume, and distinct cast shadows that anchor everything solidly to the ground plane. It literally transforms a flat, kind of basic drawing into a rich, three-dimensional composition that perfectly captures the actual lighting of the room.
Which brings us to part 4, crafting memory drawings.
So the morning exam is completely done, you've had your lunch break, and now it's 2 p.m. The still life objects, they're gone. You now have to rely entirely on what you can conjure up in your own mind's eye. Where object drawing was all about strict observation and acting kind of like a human camera, memory drawing is all about imaginative construction. It's pure pictorial expression. You are transitioning into a storyteller, and a massive part of that story is integrating human figures dynamically into a scene.
And you can't just draw whatever you want. The syllabus gives you very specific core elements that you absolutely must include if you want to pass. They'll hand you prompts. Maybe it's a family birthday party, kids doing a science experiment, or villagers planting trees. You have to illustrate that past event, and critically, you have to include 3 to 4 human figures. You definitely can't just hand in an empty room. You also need to drop in suggestive elements related to the specific topic, and it all has to be set against an appropriate, effective background. To see how this evolves, consider a real prompt from the 2015 question paper, my birthday being celebrated by my mother, father, and sister. First, you start out with rough, rapid stick figure staging. At this stage, you're just trying to figure out how to compose those 3 or 4 figures harmoniously. Then, that rough staging transforms into the final, fully fleshed out narrative. Suddenly, you have your 4 human figures, all with distinct expressions. You have the suggestive elements like the birthday cake and the presents, and a complete background featuring a window and a happy birthday banner. It hits every single requirement of the brief. Finally, we've reached part 5, Golden Rules for Success. Okay, real talk. No matter how incredible your shading is, or how wildly expressive your human figures turned out, there are a few overarching, non-negotiable regulations that will absolutely dictate your final grade. First, and I know this might induce a little bit of panic for some of you, absolutely no mechanical devices are allowed. Period. Hide those rulers. Even that 1.5 centimeter border we talked about in the morning session, yep, that has to be drawn completely freehand. Second, you will get 0 credit for tiny, timid little pictures. You have to confidently fill the paper they provide. And lastly, rising above all the technical checkboxes, your chief aim must always be to create a beautiful, harmonious composition. The overall aesthetic feel is literally just as important as the technical accuracy.
So there you have it. We've completely unpacked the structure of the day, the exact toolkit you need to bring, that rigorous morning methodology of pure observation, and the afternoon's imaginative storytelling requirements. You are now fully armed with the tools, the techniques, and the rules clearly defined by the curriculum. So the only question left for you is, when that blank piece of paper is sitting right in front of you, what memory will you choose to bring to life? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy drawing!